Hello everyone, today is Valentine's Day and so I'm here with Serum making basses. The bass we're making today is a Neuro bass, the sort of thing you'd find in a Billain song or maybe a Noisia song, I don't really know, but it sounds like this. And also we've got a bit more exciting bit here. So yeah, and I'll show you the whole track at the end once I've finished everything. But the way this is made as an overview, we're starting with a massive patch, which is an interesting one. We'll get to that in a moment. Then I bounce down to audio, the audio on its own. And then we load into Serum maybe, I don't know. In Serum we put a lot of weird effects on it and use these macros to modulate stuff. And then once we've done all that stuff, we'll see what we've done with the external effects. That all the stuff I've used I think are free, so that's all okay. And then some automation. So let's start off with the original massive patch. So here is the massive patch. It's incredibly sensitive. To show you what I mean, notice neither of these filters are being used. Here's the bottom C that you need to play. Can't play this top C. Has to be the bottom C. And I'm going to move the mix of these non-existent filters. Yeah. Also, make sure on the global you're running on ultra quality. If it's on eco, load of rubbish. High, load of rubbish. Has to be on ultra. Yeah. So, other than the sensitivity problems you may experience, everything is actually quite simple. But yeah, like I say, just make sure everything is exactly the same as on mine. I'll upload the preset for you. So all it is a square saw 1 with the wavetable position all the way to the right, so it's a saw wave. Intensity is all the way up, amp is all the way up, and it's down 2 octaves. Then you're going to run it through feedback here. The feedback is on post A, so it will be coming from there. That'll be pre-A, no, you want post-A. Then on that feedback loop, you're going to put on a sine shaper. So make sure your insert one is there. And firstly, the feedback, put the amp at 2/3. And for the sine shaper, the dry wet, put it just before 3 o'clock. And the drive is not actually all the way up, it's nearly all the way up. The filter, okay, it's a bit weird this, because the filter looks like it's doing absolutely nothing. There is the high pass frequency is all the way down, the low pass frequency is all the way up. But if I turn it off, look, turn it on, yeah. So put that on and then just leave it so it's doing nothing like that. And in the routing tab, make sure that is before, well, I don't know what you're supposed to call that, yeah, just make sure it's there. FX1, classic tube. Dry wet is 4 o'clock, drive all the way up. Dimension expander, the dry wet is just before halfway, and the drive is at 9 o'clock. And then I've just taken a bit of high end off with the EQ here. There's not really much more to say. You might as well tick restart via gate and make sure that your amplitude envelope has got 0 attack, 0 release, and maximum level on it. And then that should be fine. So now what you need to do is you need to get your original massive patch, and you're going to record a big long C. Mine lasted 1.5 bars, about 140 beats per minute. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. The one I got sounds like this. If you got something different, it doesn't really matter, because I'm going to put this in the description for you, and you can use it in the next stage of this video if you want, if yours doesn't work. But it should be okay anyway. So save this file onto your computer, and then I'm going to show you how to load it into Serum. So what you do is oscillator A is the one we're going to use. Click on the little pencil there, and the information you need to put in is this formula down here. Type in C0, oops, C0 because that's the note you played, and the number here 1348 is important because we need that to import it. Okay, to import you need to go down onto this menu to audio via fixed frame size, and then you're going to select wherever you saved it. Here's mine, respace layer, open. Then you type in the number 1348, press enter, and then click OK, and you'll find that loads in. There's 91 of these little things. The thing is, Serum can take 256, and so we might as well, if we want to have 256 of them, let it do that. So go morph spectral. You can do morph crossfade, just so you're aware, but spectral is actually quite a bit better. And then now we've got 256 of them, and now this means that we can morph between them like that. So now you've got the wavetable loaded in, you need to do a few things with it. First thing we're going to do is we're going to add some unison on. We're not detuning it, I just thought maybe it's because it needs to be louder. I don't know. Anyway, put on 16 voices, detune it all the way off, blend on, okay, blend doesn't matter. Phase and random at 0, wavetable position at 0, and then pan in middle and level sort of to sort of 4 o'clock-ish maybe. But one thing you definitely need to do with this is you're going to need to automate this wavetable position up and down. And to do that we're going to use LFO1. So get LFO1, assign it to the wavetable position and put the assignment amount all the way up. And then set it to a zigzag shape just like this. Put it on trigger like that. Put on anchor. And then set the rate to 0.3 Hertz. And that should sound fine, and that just means that when you play a note, it will cycle through the wavetables up and down like that. Next thing you need to do is put on a sub. Choose the second one along, which has a few more harmonics in it. Don't put it on direct out, level all the way up. And then very quickly on this envelope one, which is your volume envelope, just make sure you've added on a little bit of an attack and a little bit of a release. Just stops the clicking sound on the sub, which is not something you want. The filter is actually very important. The type is a low pass 24, like this. And the cutoff you're going to put here at 9 o'clock. Resonance halfway, pan halfway, drive at 9 o'clock, fat all the way up, and mix all the way up. But you are going to do some things with this. Firstly, on the cutoff, you're going to modulate it with macro 1. And so assign that to the cutoff, like that. Where is it? Like that. And then you're going to drag the amount up a little bit so it goes to sort of 10 o'clock. And that sounds, just the macro one. The macro one's doing other things, but that's what it sounds like. Then on the mix, because this is a low pass, obviously you're taking out a lot of these high frequencies which sounded so nice before. So the mix just allows us to add some of them back in. And so with that one we've taken the amount down a bit so that when we turn up macro 2 those high frequencies reappear. So that's the filter. So now we go on to the effects section. First effects you're going to use is a phaser. You can't really hear the phaser, but the rate you've got about 0.7 Hertz, depth is all the way up, frequency is at 11 o'clock, feed is at, that's feedback is at 11 o'clock, and phase is at 2 o'clock. Then you're going to stick the mix to halfway, 50%, just because phasers like it like that. The EQ, we're not using the lower band, but we are using this upper band here as a low pass. Put the frequency to 2 o'clock, a bit above, and then Q and gain don't matter. But the other thing you do need to do with this is you're going to need to assign macro 2 to it again, and drag it up slightly so that when we turn up macro 2, the frequency moves up and we get a bit more high end again. So kind of the same thing that we were doing with this filter here. The distortion here, this is being modulated with macro 1, the drive is, and so watch this little window as I turn it up. So it does some pretty cool things. The filter distortion type is Manifold, which is linear. That's what the lin is. And as you may have guessed, the drive is, when the macro is on 0, the drive is all the way down. and then when you turn the macro up again, it goes up a few notches to there, which is why it sounds so cool. But the only other thing you need to do with that is put the mix up to 2/3. What is it? 60? Yeah, 2/3. And finally, there is this compressor here, which doesn't do anything, but those are the settings if you want to look at them. It just stops it getting really loud at points when you turn up these macros. So yeah, that's the Serum patch all done. So yeah. So the next thing we're going to look at is the effects and then the automation. Really, the effects are there to enhance the sound. If you take them all off, it still sounds pretty good. Let's listen. This is what it sounds like without any effects. And of course, if you go to all the interesting bits. So it sounds sort of okay, and then when you add them all in, you get this. Which sort of subtly enhances it. First one you're going to use is this, fatness sort of 33-34%, and colour is at 9-10%. That just makes it louder and fatter. Then you've got this compressor here, which is free. This is because when you take up the macros, when you do this, you often find that it changes the volume quite drastically, so what this does is flatten out a bit more. Hence the massively large ratio of 1000 to 1. It's got a very quick attack, very slow release, sort of just left of center sensitivity, and sort of 2 o'clock makeup gain. So that's the settings for those. Then I've EQ'd it a bit to take out the really, really low bits, and a tiny bit more bass, 1.5 decibels. And then I've added in some extra high end here with that. Stereo tool. What I found when I first put this on was that the bass itself, it morphed left and right slightly, so I narrowed it sort of by 8 decibels to stop that happening, because basses in stereo rarely work very well. So if I take that off, let's just see if you can hear this. But with it on, it's narrower. You might not be able to tell, but yeah, it's there. Then you've got this lovely vibrato. Vibrato on bass is an interesting concept, but with this sort of thing it tends to work out nicely. 4.2% depth, not very much obviously. If I take it up to sort of 15%, yeah, you can really hear that. Sometimes it's fun to play with vibrato on basses, but subtly it's okay. And then 11.1 hertz at speed, sort of not that quick, but just sort of not too slow to sound out of tune. And then the rest of it you can leave on default. Exciter, this just adds a bit of sizzle to the high end of the bass when it listen to this. Now if I turn it off, just the end of that sound just doesn't sound quite as buzzy. So that's that, and then finally I've added a bit of stereo width back in again using this. Yeah, about 30 milliseconds of delay and -7 decibels of that delay because you don't want it too overpowering. And the high pass filter just means that you're not widening really low subby frequencies, which is never a good thing. And so that's why I've got that on. And then the gain is -6 like default. And so that's it for the effects. The only thing left to talk about is of course this automation here. There's only 2 things you need to automate, which is the macro 1 and macro 2 from Serum. Macro 1 is the big one really, because that's the one doing most of the modulation. You can hear that here. And so when you take it up to maximum, that's when you really hear it kick in. But generally I'd say keep it quite low. Where's some other examples? So yeah, that's what that sounds like. And of course macro 2s allow some of the buzz through, so that's as you listen to the sound you'll hear the buzzy high end come back in. So that's what you need to do with that. Usually it works quite well if you have them moving macro 1 and macro 2 moving up together. It sounds nice like that. But of course, you're free to experiment how you want with that, really. And so that is the end of this video, really. I hope you found it useful. It's a bit of a weird sound. The massive hatch is quite unreliable. Of course, Serum can be a bit annoying sometimes, but it does sound quite cool at the final result. And so yeah, that's it. Now I'm going to let you just listen to this sort of bit of a track I've made. And I hope you subscribe, like this video, share this video particularly, and thank you for watching.